But anyway, today, let's see how long we can actually do this today. It depends really on the open discussion and Q&A section of the deck. But we wanted to do is cover a few things. But before we actually get started, just to clarify, and we do this in every single time in every single PnP call. So SharePoint Patterns and Practices, also known as Office 365 Developer Patterns and Practices, is a slightly different thing than the classic Patterns and Practices. Classic Patterns and Practices was really kind of a how to do academically right stuff when you're implementing or doing development. And we do that within a SharePoint context as well. But what we actually want to do is to provide a developer community for SharePoint and towards SharePoint Online. So having a community which will help each other within the community forums and providing samples, and also providing getting started, stepping stones for people to get started. So we don't want to kind of how would I put it? We don't want to only share really deep dive stuff within the PnP. We also want to make sure that people are able to jump in on board of SharePoint development in SharePoint Online, or actually in on-premises as well, if you're using adding model or SharePoint Framework. The PMP provides code samples, guidance documentations, monthly community calls, case studies. The themes are on SharePoint Framework, SharePoint add-ins, and all of that. So SharePoint PMP is owned by the SharePoint Engineering. So in the future, starting with the SharePoint Framework introduction, we will not have a separate MSDN, separate set of samples, which are some of them are something else and some of them are PNP samples. All of the stuff what we do is all of the community stuff what we do from a SharePoint perspective will be coming out from the PNP initiative. So we really within the engineering want to make sure that everybody in the community, that people wouldn't get first of all confused. What is a PNP? It's a community-driven community initiative, which is then facilitated by the SharePoint engineering. AKMS SharePoint PMP is the one address to remember. A few things. The agenda for office hours is quite often the same. So we kind of explain what is the office hours. We do have a special interest group for SharePoint Framework as well. So we kind of cover what those are. Then what's the PMP core team currently doing? Some discussions on random topics. We do not have really specific things on product design for this week, but let's talk about more other random stuff. And then open discussion and feedback. If you have any technical issues, if you have technical challenges, you can't make the SharePoint Framework tutorials work. There's whatever questions you want to know if the SharePoint Framework is going to be supported in 2013. This is a one forum to ask those questions. So all good for any questions what you want to ask. Good. So the PnP office hours and special interest groups. So office hours, what we really want to do with this is that we do have a monthly community call. In the monthly community call, what we do is that we have a summary on the previous month. We explain what we have added from a sample perspective, what guidance have been added, what videos have been added, and all of that. Within that call, quite often, we don't have a time for open discussions and open community interaction. And then that's where the whole idea of office hours and special interest groups actually started. People started asking that, hey, it would be great if there would be some sort of an alternative call where people can unmute themselves and have an open discussion with the core team members, or they can ask questions and we can have much more relaxed way of covering things. And that's what the office hours is all about, and that's what the special interest group for JavaScript development is all about. So the special interest group, office hours, first of all, is a bi-weekly meeting. Bi-weekly calls. You can participate if you have availability, if you have an open question, if you want to follow up what we're doing. And then the special interest group for JavaScript development or SharePoint Framework development happens in every single Thursday. And again, you can join if you have time. If you don't, you can have a look on the recording afterwards. And especially for the special interest group for SharePoint Framework, we want to actually start having community demos within the weekly calls as well. And for this week, we have already set up the community calls, which reminded me of doing some marketing on that one, which is another topic. But for the office hours, we really want to kind of show you guys something what we've been doing from a core team perspective, and then open up the forum if there's any random topics to talk about. or if you have any challenges to cover. What options do I have to help on PnP? Typical slide, what we do in office hours as well. So you can absolutely use all of the existing samples, core component, and guidance what we're providing. That's one way of contributing, is the usage. Providing feedback via Yammer group or the Microsoft Technical Network or issue list in a GitHub. You can extend or improve existing samples or create documentation if you have time and willingness to do that. And obviously, if you do that, you get recognized in our monthly community calls as a contributor and also in our monthly communications. You can fix issues, you have encountered, and then depending on what you do, you either clone or you do a pull request or you do a submission, or slightly depends on the case. We do have a nice webcast which is explaining these options in practice and showing how to, for example, contribute a new sample to PnP repos. A few things from the last office hours as well, because this is an ongoing change. So the PMP videos have been already actually moved to YouTube. So we do have a new channel in the YouTube. So we moved away from the channel 9. Channel 9 doesn't support really playlists, so we can't really easily share as many videos as we produced in every single week. This recording, as an example, will be released in the YouTube channel underneath the bi-weekly office hours playlist within 12 or 24 hours after this call. And there's a lot of other stuff there as well. So we are targeting, also from a SharePoint engineering perspective, we're targeting to have all of the samples what will go to the GitHub for all of the new SharePoint Framework stuff will have a video which is explaining what that sample is all about and how does it work and why does it exist. So we're really kind of targeting increasing the number of the videos, so that because some people learn by watching videos, some people prefer reading documents, so we will actually accommodate both options within our guidance. PMP moving from Yammer to network.office.com. Technically, we're no longer moving to network.office.com. This is a relatively sad story. We're moving to, it's techcommunity.microsoft.com. So something happened within the last 2 weeks, and they changed actually the network.office.com name as a techcommunity.microsoft.com, if I remember correctly. Anyway, if you remember AKMS SPN PMP community address, you'll land to the SharePoint developer group within that new community site, and that's pretty much the same experience as within the Yammer. Somebody might say that it's a horrible experience. Some people don't like it. Some people prefer that on top of the Yammer. Really, one of the key reasons why we're doing that is that that information is available anonymously as well. The Yammer-based Office 365 network, you had to actually register, you had to go there, and that seemed to be slightly challenging for some of the community members. So the new framework, you can actually view stuff, you can do and read stuff without even registering, and then if you want to contribute, you need to register, which is hopefully reducing the burden of getting involved within the discussion or getting access on the information. PMP Matrix. So this is one thing what we wanted to quickly talk about today. So we're working on, this is actually kind of more super excited for the PMP core team members side, but just we want to have a full transparency on what we're doing from a PMP perspective. And this also applies for all of the samples within the SharePoint framework side. So what we're looking for is really increasing the metrics, how people are using the PMP, how people are using the samples, which of the samples are meaningful, which of the samples people don't really care. And that's what we've been working on getting much more additional insights on how people are using the PMP in practice. So I'm going to show these two in practice in a demo. So I'm going to actually show you the metrics, how we collect metrics from a README files. So when people are surfing inside of the GitHub, we do have a few GitHub repos, but many of the repos have multiple samples. And the GitHub doesn't actually provide a specific statistics on one particular folder. So we have a specific way of actually collecting that insights or pumping that information to Azure App Insights, and then we can actually surface that using the Power BI. The second dimension is then the PMP Sites core component usage, or we started from there, and the same logic has been now added to PMP PowerShell as an example. And this is tracking, which we are doing using a custom header as part of the HTTP calls in the CSAM. So if you're using a PMP Sites core object, the NuGet package, we are using the client tag property in the CSAM context object to add a method name and a stamp within the request. And that's an information which we, within the Microsoft side, can then collect on the other side of the road, essentially meaning from a SharePoint Online logs. And that gives us insights on how you're using the core component, what you're using from a core component, and all of that, which helps us on, let's say, prioritizing the issues, prioritizing our work as well. I'm going to quickly show those one in practice today in the demo. So let me do some screen sharing. I'm going to walk through some random topics and random stuff. So give me 1 second while I'm setting up. So clicking that one, that's fine. And moving up one browser to one of the screens. Good. And let's actually present the desktop. And somebody might actually tell me whenever the desktop sharing has started, or you can see now. Good. Multiple people are confirming. First of all, the PMP YouTube. So let's actually start from here. I'm going to show multiple things within this demo. So the YouTube channel itself, there's multiple. If you land here, typically if you land here, I'm actually using my, well, this is actually the right thing to do. Actually, let's switch to my separate identity. There we go. That's our YouTube channel. If you're a new visitor, we do have a PNP intro starting up, but when you actually walking here, if you scroll down, you can see the latest uploads, popular uploads, monthly community call recordings, PMP webcasts. So the weekly webcasts are available in here. SharePoint Framework tutorials, all of the existing tutorials what we have available have been recorded as a video, and we're walking through how to actually set up and follow up on those things. Sample demo videos, PMP office hours. This is this particular hour, which is getting shared within this playlist as well. And JavaScript special interest group recordings here as well. We do have some additional stuff, let's say classic videos from PMP, like the PMP's client-side object model core component training, which is then showing, for example, how to do site provisioning using the core component, how to use PowerShell with the core component, and all of that. So a lot of videos available for people to consume if you're interested, and you can, well, the whole point why we're kidding here is that it gives us more insights once again, how people are watching the videos, from where they're consuming the videos, and also we can share more videos in a more flexible way. Channel 9 wasn't flexible enough for us, unfortunately, so we needed to switch over to YouTube. And the YouTube actually gives a lot of nice insights on the video usage. So it seems to be that US people tend to watch a lot of videos, comparing to Russian people, as an example. Well, Australia is pretty high, Finland, and so on. So we can actually see statistics on the usage, which is pretty cool. The other stuff which I wanted to show quickly, let's go actually in here as an example. So the tracking of the individual samples. So if you've been following up on the PMP journey, the PMP is actually 3 years old initiative. Originally, it was a Microsoft internal thing with a completely different name. Then slightly over 2 years ago, we switched the name to PNP based on a request from a marketing side. But what the PMP fundamentally is all about is to people to share their knowledge, their samples, their learnings for others, so that other people don't have to bang their head against the wall. So essentially sharing is caring is the whole thinking around this one. So Let's have one example, or let's put it this way. If you have followed up on the PMP journey, you know that we have a lot of samples in one repo. And that's one of the reasons why we have such a popular repo. It has 1,755 forks and all of that, because this is a one repo where people can go. They can easily track what has happened on a particular topics within the SharePoint. Now, for all of these samples, we are actually started tracking in the dev branch already, starting from September master merge in the master branch, the actual views of individual samples, because GitHub doesn't actually give us this information. And just to share you how we're doing that, we added in the README files, we have added a one image stamp as a final entry within the file. I'm going to zoom in, and you can hardly see that because it's actually the how would I actually get that visible? Let me close that and let me start a notepad. So for example, for this particular sample, I'm gonna paste with that one URL here. We have added a image tag which has a source tag to telemetry SharePoint PMP.com/PMP/sample/branding client-side rendering. And this is actually a web API which is hosted within Azure within our telemetry.sharepointpmp.com site, which is then using the app insights to track the usage of this particular or access of this particular sample. So whenever somebody goes to this README file, what will happen is that we'll stamp that request, and then within the app insights, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, we're able to then see individual access on individual things. So as an example, for the past 24 hours, we have 283 requests. Let's actually not server requests. Let's go usage. That's the wrong thing. Page views. And for example, there I can now see that right now today, the most popular PMP sample, for those which are being tracked, not all of them are yet being tracked. They've been starting, the tracking starts from next Friday, or day after tomorrow, yes, the upcoming Friday. But from existing stuff, we know that the SharePoint UI responsive package seems to be the most popular one. We have 86 page views from yesterday, because we started this tracking already now. So we're able to then, using that kind of image tracking, we're able to then track the access of end users on the individual README files within a GitHub and all of that. And by the way, if you're interested in all of this tooling, what we're building for tracking purposes, we will share all of this stuff in the PMP tools sooner or later. So if for some reason you want to do similar setup within your solutions or within your GitHub or wherever, you will have then a solution what you can use sooner or later. The other thing what I wanted to quickly kind of show, I'm not going to zoom in here too much, is the tracking of what we do within the version level. I'm going to actually do this, so I'm not going to show any tenant URLs. So this is the tracking of the PMP core component, the .NET core component, and the NuGet package, which is released as a NuGet package every single month. And we do this tracking by adding that client tag in as a header entry to the HTTP calls. Whenever the core component is calling SharePoint Online, that custom header tag is being added on the call, or it's the client tag header tag, and that's getting actually recorded within our logs within a SharePoint Online site. And because we are part of the SharePoint engineering, we can access those logs, and therefore we can actually see that information in the other side. And what this one is giving us is a lot of insights on what versions, first of all, how many tenants are using the PNP core component in production in practice. So we know that, for example, in August, there was 2,080 individual SharePoint tenants which were using the PMP core component, which is a good number because I think it's highly beneficial for everybody to know that there's more than 2,000 tenants who are using this core component, which means that if you will face an issue, most likely somebody else has faced the issue, and most likely they've solved the issue as well. It's just a matter of having that community discussion to get the issue, first of all, is it actually already fixed, or get it actually solved and get it updated maybe on the following version. And also what this one gives us is, for example, insights on the individual versions. So the orange one is the June version, and it has started going down at the same time as the August version goes up in the August. Or how would I put it? That's the May version. Like it should be, it should go down because we have the June version going up and then the August version going up, and that means that the June version should go down. Well, the September numbers are not complete yet, but if we're looking just on the August numbers, it's good to see that at least the June usage isn't growing hectically. The May August release usage is growing like it should be, and every other older version goes down. That's what it actually means. So nice data which we are getting, and this helps us no doubt on understanding which versions are out there, which versions do we need to support, which versions we need to fix if there's any issues, and all of that. Oops, sorry, that's my mouse, sorry for that. One kind of an additional kind of a, how would I put it, a funny tracking. I don't know why we actually have this, but why not? Power BI actually does that. We know exactly how many unique tenants there are using the PMP core components per day, which is completely useless information. But it seems to be that let's see, Thursday is the most used day for the PMP core component. And Sunday is actually more used than Saturday. Anyway, completely useless data. Good. What else did I want to show? Let's actually switch back on the slides. It's probably isn't like that, so we have more time on the discussions if needed. Good. Yeah, so one thing what I didn't show is the dev.officecom /SharePoint. Just a reminder on that one as well. There's a slide coming up on that one. But before going there, reminders of an existing IP which we have available. Me and Bill Baer, we did a let's say visitor visit on the Rencore webinar. So the Rencore organized 2 webinars like this week and last week, which were around the SharePoint framework. Both of these webinars have been recorded and they're available for people to access. And both of them have live demos, a few slides, and we talk about the SharePoint framework. And also there was questions around the SharePoint framework, where it will be supported, what does it mean? What does it mean for branding perspective and all of that, which we can certainly talk about later today as well, or tomorrow in a special interest group, or you can have a look on these videos and recordings if you're interested. So if you search for Rencore or SPFx, you'll find this from their blog posts. September master merge, just to cover what we've been working on the PMP core team perspective. So the September master merge will happen this Friday, the 9th of September. Some of the repos might be delayed until the weekend, and that's because we first need to have the core component compiled and released as a NuGet package, and then we can update, for example, the PMP PowerShell and the PMP partner pack so that they're using the latest version. But we're looking into getting stuff done on Friday. By Monday, everything will be no doubt updated. There's a lot of other stuff is released as well. So the PMP partner pack 2.0, which is an enhanced starter kit to start developing solutions on top of SharePoint Online or Office 365. That's going to be released on this Friday or during weekend. Office 365 Starter Portal from Frank Cornu, and it's an awesome solution. Shows how to, I can say that I didn't finalize that sentence, but it actually shows how to build custom portals in Office 365 using the publishing sites, using the PMP core component and the PMP packaging model for automate your deployment. It's using a lot of the other patterns within the PNP guidance as well. It's an awesome thing which we just merged earlier today to the dev branch. Sub-site creation, classical thing. I don't know if any of you guys who are in this call are into the site provisioning. One of the challenges what we have been having is that the modern experiences within the SharePoint site, as in the libraries and the new site contents page, the classic implementation of our sub-site creation story was based on sub-site link override on fly using a user custom action user custom action in a site collection level. We do have a solution for it. It's not a how would I put it? It's not yet well, it's a pretty solution. It no doubt works, but it's not the final solution from that perspective. That engineering is looking into exposing that sub-site link as a configurable entry in the tenant level as well. But we don't have a timeline for it. So for now, we do have a new solution as part of the September release, how to do sub-site override, link override, if you need to take an ownership of the sub-site creation within a SharePoint Online as well. There's building a React-based custom form solution, which is a good sample from Brian Micheli, and there's a lot of other stuff in the release as well. We'll have the release notes available in the dev.office.com blogs on Friday, around afternoon would be my guess. Other stuff, dev.office.com/SharePoint. This was released last week. Hopefully you've seen the social media communications on this, but just making sure that it's getting recorded as well. So the SharePoint new developer landing page for SharePoint is the dev.office.com/SharePoint. And from there right now, you'll find the SharePoint framework stuff. We will introduce a lot of other stuff there as well in the future. So like the stuff related on upcoming webhooks, the SharePoint webhook guidance and information and tutorials will be in the dev.office.com/SharePoint whenever we get that stuff out, which will happen quite soon, but I can't tell you exact date or an hour when it will happen. Somebody might have actually read that one between the lines, but we'll see. It's going to happen relatively soon. But yeah, anyway, and on this one, the dev.office.com/SharePoint, this is actually based on a GitHub. So all of the information, what you see within that SharePoint node is coming from a GitHub repo under the SharePoint organization. So if you find a bug, if you want to contribute, if you want to suggest a change, you can go to a GitHub, you can submit even a pull request showing that, hey, this article had a mistake, let's fix that in the following way. And you will absolutely get then credits out of those contributions using the PMP monthly community calls and the monthly messaging as well. Oh, what else? Not that much from our side. So it was again me talking for, well, almost 30 minutes running through the few slides. But that's it from the PMP core team perspective. We don't have kind of, let's say, things to really talk about this time, kind of how would, well, topics from a SharePoint engineering perspective. Hopefully next time we'll have a few additional things or suggestions, which we need your input. But if you have any questions, if you have any input on what we've shown, if you have any random questions around the SharePoint framework or the future of SharePoint adding model or the future of sandbox solutions or the future of farm solutions, and trust me, you are in the right call. You can ask anything on any of those topics, and I'm pretty sure that we can answer unless the information is confidential. So feel free to use the Iron window, feel free to unmute yourself, feel free to provide suggestions, feedback around the PnP or our stuff, what we do within the SharePoint side. Or I can come up with the random stuff as well. There's no questions. Yesterday in the SPFx Rencore seminar, there was a lot of questions around the SharePoint framework and the future of SharePoint framework. As an example, will it be supported in on-premises? And answer is yes, it will be supported in on-premises. Then the follow-up question is on which versions, and the answer is SharePoint 2016. So we're not looking into releasing the SharePoint framework on a SharePoint 2013. There's too big of a gap between the SharePoint Online and SharePoint 2013. Theoretically, if there's a high demand between the customers, who knows? That theoretically might happen. But SharePoint 2016, we committed on doing that. And that's going to happen somewhere around next calendar year. Can't provide even a month for that because we don't actually know yet.
But that will be using the feature packs, presumably,
yes,
to
correct.
which is why you can't go back to 2013 so easily.
True. Well, the feature packs, technically the feature packs is just a mechanism to package new functionalities for SharePoint 2016. If we go back on, let's say, SharePoint 2010 timeframes, we released, what was it? It wasn't a service pack. It was
cumulative update or something.
No. There was a specific update which we did with the SharePoint 2010. It wasn't called a feature pack. It was called, never mind.
Update 2 or something like that.
Yeah, it was something really weird. But it's just a mechanism. The feature packs are a mechanism to introduce new capabilities within the SharePoint 2016. We don't want to call them CUs, cumulative updates, because that refers more on let's say, bug fixing. For SharePoint 2013, the difference between the SharePoint Online and 2013 is so huge that we would have to do additional plumbing to make them work with the SharePoint framework, and most likely that will never happen. I can't say never no, because you never know, but very, very unlikely that will never happen.
Do you need you also need that in order to use a SharePoint framework web part with a classic SharePoint site? Is that correct?
In on-premises, answer is correct.
Yes.
Yes, answer is correct. Correct. Because there's additional plumbing for the pages and the rendering to make that work, which works right now in the dev tenants in SharePoint Online, but we're looking into extending that reach quite soon as well, even before Ignite, so it will be available in the first release tenants. Yeah, somebody's jumping on call. No. So there's a question from Nigel, where are SharePoint FX known errors stored? So right now we're using the docs repo, so the SharePoint /sp docs repository for those, and the issue list for collecting all of the existing issues, what people might be encountering. And for that one, I can actually share that one in practice. So let me maybe jump on a sharing of the screen still, because if there's any other random questions where I need to share, why not? So if we go to the github.com/SharePoint/SPDevDocs, and I'm going to paste this one in. That's where all of the documentation actually goes, what you in the SharePoint Framework documentation in the dev.office.com/SharePoint. So if I click Get Started, you'll see the SharePoint documentation, the webinars, the Getting Started guidance, the tutorials, and all of that. All of this information is actually coming from the GitHub directly. So we do have an automated publishing mechanism. So we're able to take pull requests and all of that. Right now, if you find any issues around the SharePoint framework, this is the issue list where we are asking people to actually report them. And for time being, if there are any known issues which we acknowledge in the wiki of SPDevDocs, we do have a known issues list, which is then explaining additional things on known issues. There are some of these known issues were for the SharePoint framework drop number 1, which was a few weeks back, and the new drop was done on last Thursday. So there was an update for the SharePoint framework last Thursday, and that's actually already fixing a lot of stuff. For example, it's using the HTTPS within your local dev box, so you're able to reduce, or you don't have to do that unsafe script clicks in the browser to make the solutions to work, if you're familiar with that. So what happens if you have hybrid configuration? You can have an SPA in the cloud and not SPFx in the on-premises. That is absolutely correct. So right now, if you need to have the exact same solution in on-premises and also in SharePoint Online, you would be still using SharePoint add-ins. SharePoint add-ins are fully supported, and we will keep on supporting them. They are absolutely a right solution for some of the development scenarios. SharePoint FX, SharePoint Framework, or the client-side development model of it, it's not planned to replace SharePoint add-ins. And that's a really important thing to realize. The SharePoint add-ins have their usage scenarios as well, but then SharePoint Framework or the client-side web parts have their usage scenarios as well. The biggest difference between the SharePoint Framework web parts and SharePoint add-ins is that SharePoint add-ins have this isolation of a security, because you're actually running within an iframe. That iframe has a unique domain, so therefore the code from an iframe cannot access or modify the content within a page. SharePoint Framework, however, and the client-side web parts in the SharePoint Framework, they do not have an iframe. So therefore, it's JavaScript which is embedded on a page, which means that it's running in the context of the end user. So there's no concept of OAuth in the sense of SharePoint Framework client-side web parts. So if you need to have a trust on the adding model or using an app within a SharePoint, or your policy is that you should always have this OAuth-based security, then you will absolutely keep on using SharePoint add-ins. And fully supported, will be supported. We're not planning, definitely not planning to remove that. Maybe some point, who knows, somewhere in the future, but we'll first deprecate that and give you a few years' time to understand what the deprecation means. So we won't be removing any of the support in really fast time frame. Known errors would appear to be out of date. That's a fair comment, Nigel. So it's a resourcing challenge. Some of the known errors are from a drop 1. And the reason why all of this stuff haven't yet been updated is simply a resourcing challenge. Somebody is fiercely typing. That's Frank. And there we go. Frank went unmuted. Not the first time I'm in call when Frank is typing. I can recognize his keyboard.
You know the keyboard by now, Vesa. It's like the chair, my friend.
Like the chair, but you fixed the chair, so that's good.
The chair is fixed.
Good. Any other topics what we want to talk about? Anything around the SharePoint framework? Well, the classic scenario, I'm going to ask this question for myself. SharePoint framework, what does it mean from a branding perspective, and why are we losing the, let's say, the custom master page support in the modern UIs of a list and libraries? And this is something what people keep on asking every single day in the different forums. And the reality is, I'm going to show this one in practice. I'm going to jump on our internal PMP site, our collaboration site for the PMP core team members, and then hopefully, if I go to site contents as an example, I'm in the modern experience. Yes, I am. So the modern experience is like the site contents within the new site contents, or the list view. If I go to documents library, hopefully I don't have anything. Yeah. So these fellows do not support a usage of a custom master page. And we do know that might be, let's say, a terrifying moment for some people. These experiences do not also support customizations using the user custom action model. So essentially injecting, in quotes, a JavaScript on the page for modifying the experience. And that's because there's multiple reasons on that one. So first of all, this is still kind of in preview. So the modern experiences within the lists, especially in the lists and also in libraries, are still in preview. It means that they're meant to be, let's say, a version 0.2 or maybe version 1.0. We know that there's gaps. And therefore, there's a pretty nice guidance in the Microsoft support as well, saying that if you are using user custom actions or custom master pages, and you want to have those exact same customization options right now within a SharePoint Online, keep on using Classic. And keep on using Classic means that within a tenant settings, you choose that my library experience is Classic. That library experience setting, which I can actually quickly show in practice, is available in the SharePoint settings. So if I jump into the admin UI, not there. Well, let's go here. Fine. I'm going to actually jump directly to the right place. And if I'm able to write, that always works. There we go. So you can control that experience. Will the end users have a modern list or a modern library experience from a SharePoint settings from the SharePoint Admin Central? So underneath the settings, there's actually a lot of settings in here. Some of them have a meaning, some of them don't have a meaning, which is kind of awkward. We are, by the way, fixing or planning to fix the admin experience sooner or later. But like for the OneDrive for Business, I'm going to actually zoom. Let's see if I can zoom this properly. So whenever we introduce the OneDrive for Business experience, we introduce a classic and a new experience. For lists and libraries, we have the same thing. So we do have classic experience, and then we do have the new experience. The new experience is essentially the same as the modern experience. So if you are using user custom actions, if you're using custom master pages, and the modern experiences cannot yet support your needed functional implementation, you can always switch back on the class experience for now. And we are planning to introduce some of those capabilities back. So there are specific engineering teams which are working on the modern experience, and they're working on enabling same kind of functionalities as we used to have in the classic experience. So we do know, personally, I'm super aware, and we in engineering, we are aware that it might be painful and that we are, let's say, gradually introducing these experiences. But that's also the way people want us to introduce this in a, let's say, slightly higher level in a Microsoft organization, so that we introduce a new experience, and then people can give feedback, and then we can reiterate, and then we can introduce a better version out of that experience and all of that. So it means that because we cannot no longer wait for 3 years like we used to with SharePoint 2007, 2010, 2013, 2016 to actually do something and then release that, we need to keep on iterating and introducing new capabilities. But at the same time, whenever we do that, we always give this option to keep on using the existing experience, or then to do the new experience as well. For OneDrive for Business, personally, I was highly surprised that there wasn't that many people who jumped on it, that we switched to the new experience in OneDrive for Business, which doesn't support any branding experience. For SharePoint list and libraries, there's a lot of people who are giving us feedback around that change. And engineering teams are working on that. But technically, this branding topic isn't technically part of the SharePoint framework. So the SharePoint framework is around customization story. Yes, the SharePoint framework might introduce some capabilities around, let's say, script embedding on sites, or script embedding in a tenant level for SharePoint, for all of the SharePoint sites, and that might be a SharePoint framework thing. The fact that how do we implement the future branding model, will we support custom master pages or not, how do we actually do that in the future, that's a slightly different topic. And we'll share more and more information on that one in the Ignite timeframe. And all of the Ignite videos are recorded, and I think they should be available for view by anybody after the Ignite delivery. Good. What else? Any questions? Any comments? Am I talking to myself? How SPFx WebPart deployment process will be performed in future in production environments? If anything important to know related minimal permissions, required deployment roles, etc. So the SharePoint framework in the production, how you do that is that you there's 2 steps on the deployment of the client side of WebPart, and probably already know that, but let's reiterate that that message. The one side of the implementation is the JavaScript files, which is essentially the functionality or the code which is actually behaving, or code which is actually formatting the UI. The second part is the introduction of an SP app file. So in the production, somebody needs to explicitly install the app file to the tenant. So the tenant administrator, first of all, needs to trust that app or the client-side web part, And most likely, as part of that trust or the trusting or the quality checking, they might be double checking are they trustful provider, where's the JavaScript files, where are they located. Technically, those JavaScript files could be located in a SharePoint site as well, inside of that particular tenant where you are deploying them. That would actually reduce some of the benefits of using CDN, but again, technically that could be doable. And then whenever the tenant administrators are fine with the client-side web port and they approve that JavaScript files which are located somewhere, they can actually install the SP app to that particular tenant. At this point, maybe somebody might be saying, hey, but how would the tenant administrator know if that JavaScript file is actually updated on the CDN level? And the answer is they can't. They would not have any knowledge whenever the JavaScript file, which is hosted in CDN, would actually get switched, and theoretically it would actually be transformed to be, in quotes, malicious or not secure. Now, and that's the really key part why the introduction of the client-side web parts, it's a tenant administrative operation. In the same way, however, people are using jQuery, people are using JavaScript files or jQuery or React or whatever from the URLs in the internet. There's a lot of random URLs out there. There's a lot of random community URLs which people are using just to reference JavaScript version 3.01.js, .min, whatever from the random URL address. How would you guarantee that that URL or the JavaScript file would never be changed as a malicious JavaScript? You can't. But for some reason, we're trusting those locations. Technically, I don't think none of those locations are giving us any guarantees on the fact that will that JavaScript file be randomly switched or not, which is a good thing to be aware. And it's a good thing to, let's say, think about with the client-side web point. And that's also one of the reasons why the adding model will still absolutely remain fully supported, and we will keep on investing on the adding model as well. Because if people don't feel comfortable enough to reference these client-side web parts from the internet in the anonymous way, unless you are securing them using some level of an authentication, that's absolutely doable as well. You will have to keep on doing adding model or adding model customizations. Now, like mentioned, technically, you can absolutely create an, let's say, Azure AD secured web application, which is, in quotes, your CDN, which is secured by security, which is exposing those JavaScript files only for your organization. And most likely we will need to, we will no doubt need to write some additional guidance on these options and what does it actually mean. If you want to be super secure, if you want to be 100% sure that nobody can actually do switching of the JavaScript files, you can absolutely secure them using your Azure AD company directory. Then the question is, do you trust those guys who have access to your Azure AD or Azure deployment, which is again a random discussion. But multiple considerations, and we'll absolutely come up with a guidance, or how would I put it? We'll absolutely come up with articles which are raising key pointers to think about. There's no right or wrong. There's no best practices because best practices are always dependent on our objectives. But we will absolutely provide guidance which are raising different sides of the story and the key points to make your decision. Good. Any other questions? We don't have to actually talk about the whole hour, or I don't have to do a monologue for the whole hour. Thank you, by the way, Bill and Frank, for participating as well. Thank you, Frank, for your contributions. No, just messing with you.
You're welcome. Here, hold on a second. Okay, sorry. I was typing on my keyboard. Good. Kind of a random topic. If any of you guys are coming to Ignite, we will have a PMP booth in the Office Dev area in the Ignite Expo. So one of the PNP core team members will be all the time in the booth for answering any random questions on a SharePoint development. And this time the booth will actually have explicitly a written SharePoint PMP on top of it. Or that's my understanding. We'll see what we'll have when we get there. But we'll be there for a lot of us will be there for the whole week. Some of us couldn't make it, unfortunately, due to health issues or accident issues or family priorities. But there will be all the time somebody in the expo area, which is good. Any other things, any other questions? If not, we can absolutely close the call slightly early today. And if you're interested, super interested about the SharePoint Framework topics, there is a special interest group tomorrow. We will have at least 2 or 3 demos tomorrow, community contributions or community demos from different members showing the SharePoint Framework in practice and how to implement different kind of stuff on top of the SharePoint Framework. But other than that, we can absolutely close slightly early today, unless there's a last minute. Hey, I always wanted to ask. If you have any questions around ONNET XML, I can tell you horrible stories around that one as well if needed. How do I register for a demo? You'll ping me and suggest that you'll be available for the next week. So you can, Nigel, send me, for example, private Yammer message or send me a message to my Microsoft email address, which is pretty logical if you use my first name and last name at Microsoft.com. Good. But if we don't have anything else, I think we can close up the call. And the recording will be available in YouTube within 24 hours. I'll post some Twitter tweets whenever that's available, so people are aware when it's added on the YouTube. But other than that, thank you for joining, and please let us know if there's anything specific we should be covering within these calls, if you don't like something what we cover, or if you like something what we cover, or you have suggestions, or you want to do a community demo as well, like Nigel is suggesting, just let us know. We're more than willing to take your contributions. But thank you, and hopefully seeing you in the other PMP calls. Thank you.
Thanks, Vesa.